That's right. Live on 259 with Orrin Jackson and Micah Frazier. And we have a special guest today. Every second Tuesday of the month, ladies and gentlemen, we have Dr. Alan Briant from Idabel Public Schools.
Good morning. Good to be with you again this morning.
So the big question is good to see you. With the whole last time we were talking, we were just now getting back to school, after the Christmas break and stuff, and now they done had a week off with the snowstorm or blizzard, whatever you want to call it. And what goes on behind the scenes? We talked about as parents and students and stuff, we wait for the social media post or the call or what are we going to do? What goes on? Because you have to let everybody know ahead of time. In enough time. So tell us what goes on with a superintendent with all that.
It's always a hard decision to make. We want kids to be in school, as there's no doubt we do, for all the things that we can provide for them, and there's a lot of other, thoughts that go into why kids should be in school, not only for their own social, economic, whatever issues may be. It's a good, safe place for them to be. And so many of our parents have jobs and they need their kids to be in school. They don't have, daycare established for those who are in school on a daily basis. The meals that we provide for our students, the safe environment where they have, adult supervision, all of those things are important besides just the academic benefits they get from being in school. And I think our kids enjoy being in school too. Like you said, we just came off of a 2-week break, hadn't been back in school 2 weeks, and we start seeing all these predictions of what may happen in regard to ice and snow, but nothing, that could totally point one way or the other as to exactly what would happen. The Idabel was just kind of right on that line. It could be a lot of sleet and ice, or maybe it could be snow if it came, further from the north down towards us. And so, we knew that we would probably be out of school some, but in making those decisions, of course, number one has to be the safety of the kids. That is the number one consideration. As a superintendent, I would never want to put a kid in harm's way, whether that's getting to school or whether it's being in school. If something terrible happened, that's just something that'd be real hard for me or anyone else who's a superintendent to live with. So it's a matter of getting out on the roads. If you can get out on the roads, this time on that Monday, it was about impossible to get on the roads to see what the roads are like. And even though some of the roads in Idabel, the main roads, started clearing by about Wednesday, side roads weren't. Country roads certainly weren't cleared. A lot of ice on those. I even drove out, I can't remember if it was on Thursday or Friday of that week when everything is really clear. 70 was clear. I drove out to Garvin and drove on some of those roads out there. And even in my 4-wheel drive vehicle, had a hard time getting up some of those hills. So we have a lot of kids who live out in the country who would still have an impossibility of getting to school. Certainly wouldn't want to run buses out on those roads. So that's another big consideration. So the buses get there safely. And then one big thing that really stands in my mind, and I guess I raised 4 kids of my own, I was nervous every time my teenage drivers got out on the road, and if they were out on slick roads, not able to control the vehicle properly, the dangerous situation they can be in. And so all those things really play in. And so it just, although Thursday and Friday may have looked like we could have been in school, it was still an impossibility. Even Monday, there were still slick spots when we finally got back in school. So. Behind the scenes, that's what it is. A lot of worry. What's the best thing to do? But I had somebody tell me one time, if you always err on the side of safety, and you think about the safety aspect of students, no matter what happens, your decision can't be wrong.
Yeah. And I'm sure you probably got a lot of parents say, well, why can't they be, maybe their driveway is clear, their road is clear, but, they don't think about that, about the other kids on the different side of the town and stuff like that.
Right.
And, you probably have even kids, further away than people think, when they think Idabel schools, they think just in town, maybe outskirts, but, you may have somebody in the town area or just something, certain special circumstances and stuff. So,
yeah. And, in our area here, as rural as we are, kids come from, pretty good circumference to us. And so it's not all main roads. And certainly Idabel doesn't have the equipment that maybe some of the big metropolitan areas have to be able to clear those streets. But I'm telling you that the street department worked hard at that as well. And they provided us a lot of help at school too on trying to clear some of our drives and things along those lines as well.
Yeah. So what does Idabel schools got going on now? Like, how do you go shift from that? You know, okay, we got past that. You know, of course, we got to make something. We got to get, you know, those days back.
Well, and fortunately, when we build a school calendar each year, we build in extra days just in case, you know, there are bad weather days where we've got to close. We had enough extra days built in our calendar, still have a couple left. Hopefully we don't have any more bad weather like that where we have to close school. We only have a couple of days left in the calendar, but had a number of days built into the calendar for bad weather, and so we don't have to extend our school year. We're fortunate in that regard that there was enough time built in. You think whenever you build in 7 or 8 days of bad weather days in your calendar, you know, what's the likelihood of us having to use those days in this corner of the state? And very rarely do we do that. But here's a perfect example why it was good to have those days built in. It's
been a while since, you know, they've been out, you know, certain circumstances like that, because we talked about that. Usually it hits like Thursday, you know, afternoon. You know, you may get out early on Thursday and be out Friday, but by Monday, you know, you're good. It's clear. By Saturday, it's pretty much all gone. Right. So this is the first time in a while where it's affected the whole county for a whole week.
Right, and that's right. Yeah, and you know, the good thing about us in this county down here, all the superintendents of the school districts around here, we stay in pretty close contact with each other and know what you know the other school districts are facing, and so same was true during that particular week. We stayed in contact with each other. What's going on in your community or with your school district? What are your thoughts about this? And so try to all be on the same page about making that decision.
Yeah, you know, that's good, because you probably, you know, you'll have parents, Hayward's in school today. You know, just that's good. So how do I seen some, and it was on a Broken Bow post, because, you know, I'm from Broken, my kids in a Broken Bow. But I seen parents talking about, you know, well, I thought, you know, we didn't. I guess they're gonna be in school on President's Day, I guess, and another Friday after spring break, and the parents were all up in heels with that. Just, you know, well, I thought we had certainty, you know, this and that. I don't know. So how does that work with the snow days and just different stuff?
Well, the state has a certain requirement as to how many days you have to be in session and how many hours minimum that you have to be in session. And for us, and this includes for all schools in the state, which includes the professional development days and the parent-teacher conference days and all that, is a minimum number of days you have to be in session of 166 days in a school year, minimum. You also have to be in school a minimum of 1,086 hours in a school year. And so it just depends on how the school district may have built their calendar for that year. You know, closed 5 days. And there's a very good possibility that school districts built in more days than that, or school districts built in less. Or they may be holding on to a few extra days, not knowing for sure what weather may do in the future. And so I think it's wise to maybe hang on to some, make up a few days, and easily do that, depending on how many days you may have left in your calendar. You know, all those things would go into the decision making on that.
And, you know, for them, you know, the broke bit, their football, you know, they ended up taking off. I remember for the semifinal, you know, so they got to look at that. Like, that's a day loss.
That's a day loss.
It's you know, you don't think about it, you know, now that it's February, but, you know, that was back in November. So, you know, that's a whole day, that's a whole 8 hours that, you know, we took off. So there you go. There's one of these sick days.
One of those days, you know, is used. I mean, we'll call it bad weather days, but that's the way we build it in, but it's that many extra days built into the calendar for circumstances where you may have to close school.
Yeah. So shout out to the parents who's understanding and stuff. A lot of them mostly do.
Yes.
But, you know, a lot of them is just misunderstanding of what, you know, they may not think about stuff like that.
Right. And I think, you know, most of them probably is just somewhat of a misunderstanding in that regard. They think about what it looks like in their driveway or at their house or on the roads they travel on, and probably have much consideration to, what may be impacting, students for the rest of the school district as well.
Yeah.
So, and I think if they understood that, even those who may not totally agree with the decision, if they understood what other families may be facing and the safety issue that goes along with it, they would probably be understanding about it as well.
Is there anything else we got?
Hey, we're in the springtime, and so springtime always picks up as far as activity. It seems like we're busy all year, but I mean, we're closing out basketball season quickly. Baseball will start up the first week of March. We'll start having games on baseball. Powerlifting is going on right now. Track will start up soon. Golf is starting. Our powerlifting team is doing amazing things right now.
That's what we keep hearing.
I would not be surprised when they go to state that they do very well at the state tournament. Of course, I'm probably going to be biased, but hey, the way they've been performing, the numbers of kids that they have out for powerlifting, it wouldn't surprise me that our kids as a team win state. I know we'll probably have some individual honors there as well. So doing an extremely good job in powerlifting. That program has grown. I believe boys and girls combined were well over 70 students involved in powerlifting at Idabel High School, which is, and some from the middle school as well. But I mean, it's just amazing to me to have that many kids that want to get in the weight room, get strong. But, that's going on. Our academic team has done great things. Qualified for state this year when competed in state competition for academics. So that was, we love athletics. People love athletics because you see that we're in school for academics. And I think I can safely say Idabel is going to provide the best academic program for our kids and for any district around us. That those kids qualifying to go to a state and academic team have done an exceptionally good job. And kind of along with that, I don't know if you realize this or not, but the academic all-state program, if you think about all-state athletics, state academic program in the state as well, and talking about academics, that program started I think it was in 1988 was the first year they had academic all-staters. And since then, Idabel, our small little community down here, our small school, over the years, we've had 15 academic all-staters. And there's only 100 a year selected across the state. So 15 different years since 1988, Idabel has had an academic all-stater. And whether we do this year or not, I don't know. But I think that speaks a lot toward what our academic program is in Idabel.
Yeah. Going back to the powerlifting and stuff, that kind of brings in more students. They were on here last month, I think.
Coach Harjo and Coach Rios.
Yeah.
Rios, yes.
And now that I think about it, growing, going through, the school and system and stuff, sports, you kind of always had those students that they could lift, they could push some weight.
Right.
They maybe didn't get playing time for football or basketball. Maybe they just weren't coordinated to get it. But in the weight room, it's like, why is this guy starting?
He's a monster in the weight room.
Yeah, so that gives them an opportunity for, everybody's different. Everybody's, some people, they're good at baseball, some good at basketball, some are good at football, track and all that. And then some people can just move some weight. Like they're able, they're strong enough, they can build that strength without even trying. It seems like. So that gives the kids an opportunity to show what they can do and stuff. So that's really awesome, huh?
Yeah, we have for our size school that we have probably about 425 kids in our high school. For a school our size, what we are able to provide in regard to diversity of events that kids may participate in, they have a wide diversity. What's interesting to you, and if we can do it, hey, we're going to try to do it so that our kids find something that keeps them in school that they can relate to for the rest of their life. What caused their memories for them whenever they were in high school.
Well, before we let you go, I got 5 random questions to ask you to get to know our superintendent.
All right.
First question is, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
I'd probably want to have dinner with Thomas Edison.
Thomas Edison.
He was an inventor, someone that could invent the things that he invented. Something about him that he could see I guess maybe a vision of how things could be beneficial and how he could build it so that he could make life maybe easier for families and for individuals. But the things that he was able to create would be interesting to visit with him.
Especially in his day and time. Like,
Right.
Now we think about it, I can't, I had never invented anything.
Yeah.
So to do that back in that time, it's like, what's the thought process of this? Number 2, what's the most adventurous thing you have ever done?
Probably, my wife and I, one vacation that we went on to the Bahamas, and one of the things I did was some, I really don't know what you call it, but it was, had some type of a parachute on me where I was drugged behind a boat and out over
Parasailing?
parasailing.
Oh, that's
And
scary.
Nice.
that was pretty cool. When I first took off, I thought, I hope he's going to be able to keep me up. But after I got up and was, you're just hanging on to the glider, they got you strapped in pretty well as well.
Uh-huh.
After you got moving around and being able to see the beauty from up there, that was
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
See, you would never know that without these random questions. Do you have a favorite type of music or a go-to playlist of any sort?
Well, probably my favorite music of all time would be 80s music. Of course, that's the age that I was raised in. One of my daughters built a playlist for me of 80s music, and she played a little bit of it. She said, "You like this one? Yeah, I'll put it in
Nice.
my playlist." And so I guess that would be my go-to playlist. She's got it set up on Spotify. It's called Dad's Playlist. I want to listen to that. It's easy for me to pick it up.
Nice. We got, if you could instantly master any skill, what would it be?
I would probably love to learn to play the piano.
Yeah.
That would be a skill that could stay with you for a while. And I played the trumpet in high school, and I can still pick it up and play it occasionally. But boy, you got to keep your lips in shape for that.
Yeah.
If I could learn to play the piano, might be something I could do for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And last but not least, what's your go-to comfort food when you're having a tough day?
It's got to be chocolate.
Chocolate.
Chocolate of any sort.
That's got to pick your mood up any
that's
time.
right. Yes, sir. I love chocolate. It loves to stay on me too, so I have to eat as little of it as I can.
Well, that's going to do it for Dr. Alan Briant today. We appreciate you coming in. It's always a good time. We always look forward to this. Stay tuned for Mike is Man Up after Only in America by Brooks and Dunn.